Manchester United 3, Nottingham Forest 2. I'm joined by Stephen Howson. Steve, a bizarre game. It felt a bit end of season-y, I think, that game. Both teams looking to get goals. United had 29 shots in that game, which is one of the most I've had all season.
It's like an hour in Magaluf.
Yeah. It got to a point where it was sort of trying to funnel Bruno the ball to get his assist, but he did get one assist, equal the record, obviously, on 20. Just general thoughts, first of all, before we get into some details on the state of that game, and can we learn much from a game like that?
Realistically, probably not. Apart from maybe finishing trainings required. We defended a bit iffy at times, but we created chances. I mean, obviously, because 29 shots doesn't tell you the story of the amount of times that we had box penetration or passes that went to someone inside the box, Xerxes, and then he just couldn't get it out from his. That happens to a few of them, to be fair. They couldn't get it out of their feet or get a shot off, and you think. We probably could have had 35 shots, 36 shots. 3 goals returned from the amount of chances we created. Nowhere near good enough, actually. Brian Mbeumo's missed 3 big chances and got a goal. Good movement, obviously. Bit of right foot shooting practice required, I think. I don't think you can learn too much from it in the grand scheme of things. Obviously, a massive part of what you're going to learn is you had control while Casemiro was on the pitch, and then when he went off the pitch, funnily enough, the control went. Is it related? Yeah, I think it is related, actually. It shows you that there's a massive gaping hole in the midfield, and it's ringed in red and highlighted and got every arrow pointing towards it that we have to move significant in the summer for a real this is the man midfielder.
I want to get to Elliot Anderson for one in a minute anyway. But just looking at some of the numbers, United, like I said, 29 shots, only 8 on target, but again, doesn't tell you the true story of the quality of those chances. 4.57 XG, which is, for people who don't really care or don't know, that's shitloads of XG. That is ridiculous, realistically. To be fair, Forest had 1.88 of their own, so they were making good chances as well with their 11 shots. As you mentioned, 7 big chances and 5 of those big chances missed as well. It did have an end of season kind of feel to it. But one thing that struck me about the game, and I don't know if you felt the same, obviously you were in the stadium and I was watching it at home, is regardless of when they scored, when we scored, how open it was in the middle, my just general sense in myself was, we're going to win this game. And I don't feel like I've had that feeling with any consistency basically since Ten Hag's first season, when we finished third again, and we just, we didn't always win pretty, but we usually would win. How do you feel on that front, in terms of just a general confidence that whatever happens, we'll probably get this done?
I hadn't actually even considered my confidence of victory before you asked. There was a bit of a, oh dear, for the last 10 minutes after they got their second.
Yeah.
Are we going to throw this away here? Hold on. And then it very much was at the full time. I think everyone kind of breathed out a little bit at full time. But I think getting the early goal, and I don't even think that was our first shot. I think we'd had a couple of digs before that. I felt like, we probably were. Yeah, I think we were quite safe for the victory, actually. Yeah, and you're right. I mean, Michael Carrick's win rate is just under 70% now. I think he can get himself just over 70% with a victory on Sunday. It's not bad, is it?
I mean, it's absurd, really.
When you think about, look what he give some context to what he walked into. We finished 15th last year. We started, and what was the win rate in the league prior to him?
So, Carrick has won 11 games in his 17, and before that, obviously, we played 20 and won 8.
But 2 of them were Fletch.
Yes, or one of them was, because the other was the FA Cup game.
Got you right. Okay.
Yeah.
So Amorim has done 19 games.
Yeah.
And won 8.
Yeah. Better than last season.
Marginally.
Yeah.
So it's not an absolute transformation within the league, but when you think about who we've played as well, he's done a hell of a job.
Yeah.
The morale was through the floor. We seemingly couldn't buy a win. And that's largely gone away.
It's weird that it can go away, because he hasn't had any transfers. He hasn't had any time other than, I know he's had a full week to prepare for each game, so on the assignment front he's had a good time, but he hasn't had kind of tactic instilling pre-season type time. Whether he'll even get that this pre-season is interesting with the World Cup, but I think there's 2 or 3 weeks there where he can do a bit. But he's managed to do all the other things almost perfectly, because he hasn't had, like I said, of all the things he hasn't had, he still managed to have, because to go from 50% to 70% win rate is a massive improvement, really. That's the difference between a team that's maybe challenging for Europa Conference spot.
It was definitely in the 40s.
Yeah, to a team that's challenging for the Premier League. Like, what has happened there? Do you think anyone really knows, or do you think we've just got to a point where it keeps happening, so maybe it's not a fluke?
I actually think this season's very much about Bruno Fernandes and where he's played massively. He was unsuited to play in a 2. You didn't get the best out of him, and you didn't get the best out of the team. And I think a lot of the issues that you saw in the team, no Menu, Casemiro having to cover absolute acres, Bruno not being quite as effective with the ball, which means he's equalled this assist record by playing as a defensive midfielder for half of the year.
Which is crazy. I think his first assist was against Liverpool. It was in like December or something.
I think it was earlier than that.
Was it October?
Yeah. But like, he wasn't getting the chances or the assists, so it's really all been squished into these Michael Carrick games, possibly a little bit in the Fletcher game. When you consider we weren't getting the team wasn't functioning because Bruno's here, he's got to play. You don't want to play him as one of the wide players. You can't play him as a number 9. He has to play in that position. And we were having these conversations at the time. He don't quite work with him there. But what else are you going to do with him? There's not really a ton of options. And then Fletcher and Carrick obviously came in, both played the same formation, put a couple of midfielders in behind. They can do a couple of midfielder jobs. And then Bruno can just work on creating chances. And then suddenly the team just is harder to beat and, a bit more effective going forward. It wasn't rocket science. I think, hindsight being 2020, Amrin maybe should have looked at something different, but at the same time, you hire a guy that's got a philosophy that he wants to play. He's going to play the philosophy he wants to play. It might have ended up forcing Bruno out this summer. That's a mad thing to think about now, 6 months on, isn't it?
Not just Mainu, but Bruno even, yeah. And now it would be the maddest thing in the world for either of those two players to leave.
Because that would have been your entire midfield gone. Casemiro gone because he'd have gone anyway. Mainu gone because he's not getting a game, and then Bruno gone because he might recognise I'm not effective in this team. I'm not enjoying my football. Whereas I think that probably has changed for both Mainu and Bruno massively. So instead of only one midfielder being required now, you're looking at potentially 3 midfielders being required if you'd have gone into it. And Amrin would have been sacked at the end of the season because we would not be finishing 3rd.
No. I mean, do you think then that Carrick, you mentioned platforming players in their right positions, and obviously there's more to it than just that, but do you think that, what has changed between Ten Hag's 4-2-3-1 that wasn't getting as many wins as this sort of by the end, and this then? Because there's obviously other things.
They were the same
stirred
formation, but there's not the same execution of them.
Okay.
I think he's a little bit more pragmatic. I don't know if that's him. I don't know if that's Steve Holland, but I think we don't quite commit as forward. Ten Hag, we had that donut formation, if you remember.
Yeah.
Just nothing in the middle. But that was because all the midfielders were being told to press. And then I think, at the start of the season when I was looking at the way Crystal Palace's 3-4-3 functions and the way our 3-4-3 was functioning, we were doing the same sort of thing under Ten Hag and under Amorim, which is we lose the ball and that midfield was pressing.
Yeah.
Whereas I think under Michael Carrick, that midfield kind of drops and tries to screen, and the fullbacks drop. And you see that front 4 look to press and harry. But there's a 5 or 6 sort of organises behind. And then when was the last time you saw United really get carved open on the counter?
Well, certainly not with the regularity that we used to see, 15, 20 times a game.
Yeah, I mean, look at the amount of shots we was conceding against the likes of Everton.
Yeah.
Under Erik ten Hag, and then that continued quite frequently under Ruben Amorim. We was conceding a lot of heavy chances. I think it's a little bit of that. I think it's just he's gone, I'm going to simplify what we're going to do, and we're going to play a little bit safer than we probably want to. And I think, credit to him for the bravery to do that, because he knows that United want to attack. He probably wants to attack. You looked at the way he played football. He wants to play it forward. He's probably going to want to put it into certain areas. Look at the way his Middlesbrough played when he had the ability to. They played nice football going forward. But his remit was win games, qualify for the Champions League. He's walked into Big Jim's office and gone, all right, now what?
Interesting as well, and it's someone like an Amorim or a Ten Hag who might be given the time to sort of fail or to struggle for 12 months, 18 months, and then can remedy a lot of that for 100 million. Whereas in the Premier League, you're not allowed to fail for 12 to 18 months at Man United, and to remedy it takes 500 million, not 100 million. So someone to come in and just get it right straight away with what they've got, because I think one of the reasons we drop back and we allow less gaps is because Casemiro can't cover the ground. Mainu, to a lesser extent, but still more than some, can't cover that ground up and down the pitch every single day. So you play to the strengths of the team that you've got and still behind the scenes say we need this, this and this, rather than going, look, we lose every week, we need more players. Well, we also need a new manager because this can't last. It is interesting that, doing things this sort of sensible way has helped Carrick massively. I want to talk about Elliot Anderson a little bit. Just from the game against Man United, most defensive contributions with 20. He had the most touches with 110 and completed the most dribbles, or joint most dribbles, with 3. Those
he
three
also
stats,
he might have had the most passing.
He had some of the most passes. He had 71 out of 80 passes. He also had 2 assists in the game. I mean, you look at what he does. Those 3 stats shouldn't belong to the same player. Dribbling, defensive contributions and touches.
For a defensive midfielder on the losing team.
Like, he is someone. I mean, you look at his heat map as well.
Who had the most passing then? Because none of the United players had more than him.
The most passes. No, it was also Elliot Anderson. Yeah, he had the most passes. He had the most defensive contributions. He won the most duels.
He had the most assists.
He had the most assists. He's a bit of a freak, isn't he?
Not a bad cameo.
Like, I know this. It feels like he's going to City and all that, and it's like, oh, everyone just accepts that. But every journalist you speak to say it feels like it's City bound, but United haven't given up. His performances like that, why we haven't given up, despite what the odds may be against us.
I think he or his agent have not closed the door on United, because I don't know if you remember. I remember the sequence of how this stuff comes out because I'm a nerd for that. But it was kind of like Elliot Anderson, Manchester City rumours. Elliot Anderson. Oh, I think it might have been Elliot Anderson, Manchester United rumours. Possibly fan driven because of the season he's had. Then it was Elliot Anderson, Manchester City rumours. And they came in really strong, almost to the point of, looks like City have got Elliot Anderson.
Yeah.
And then it came back strong with Manchester United have not given up on Elliot Anderson. And you think, that felt leaked. That felt communicated by United. Why? And you've got to think about the way we've been moving under Ineos. This isn't Ed Woodward where he just likes the links and being in the news.
The stories, yeah.
Ineos move in the shadows and we don't really hear about what they're doing. So I think for us to hear that, there's only 2 plausible explanations. One, United are actually confident and kind of letting it be known, or 2, his agent's playing the game. There is no other explanation within that. His agent's telling City that United are still in there, don't fuck about, or United actually do believe that they can get the deal done. I don't think there's a possible other explanation in there.
I mean, obviously, we'd all love him to play for Man United. He's good. I think he's good enough to play for Man United. Are we at a point where a £115 million player can come into Man United with the scrutiny that would bring, with the position that we're in now? Does he do enough to be able to justify his own price tag? Because he isn't going to take us to a title next season. Does the pressure just become insurmountable if he doesn't?
You sure?
Well, I'm not sure, no. But, like Rice went to Arsenal and the 100 million was forgotten almost instantly because they were title challengers now. I don't think we would be there yet. Is it just a Pogba situation where no matter how well he plays, it's just you're not worth the money because United are still 5th?
No, I don't think so. I think as long as and I think that was the case with Declan Rice. I think his performances were good enough that people quickly forgot about it.
Yeah.
If people start pulling up the how many games without a goal or an assist, they can just fuck off because that's not his game.
Yeah.
He's been my first choice all along, even with the possibility of him going to City. I like the idea of Tchouaméni because I think he probably fits Mainu better. But in terms of just like, I know he can do it in the Prem, and that's a big factor. I think there's another gear in him that would be unlocked at a team that is better. I don't know, I think maybe I'm too romantic and I think that is a bit of a Roy Keane thing with him, where good young player comes to United and absolutely smashes it. But the talk for City seems real, but I don't know, I'm suspicious that there's something in this Pep news that isn't going away, that he's off. if you're a player, you obviously want to play for Pep Guardiola. I could totally empathise with that. But if Pep goes, does the prospect of going to City maybe go, let me just pump the brakes on this a little bit? What United saying?
Yeah.
You know, you don't know if Maresca goes in and absolutely burns the place down.
I mean, they've already potentially not won the league for 2 years in a row with, let's be honest, the best manager of his generation. He just is, Pep. So when you get someone in that is, if they did, that is definitely worse than Pep, what's the guarantee, like you said, that they go back to win? Because they spent enough money to be challenging, and they are challenging, but they're not winning it. How does an inferior manager do at that same club?
I think it's a factor.
It is a conversation. And also, he will know. That's the thing. They won't necessarily know that Pep's leaving, but City won't have been able to say, yes, it will be Pep next season, please sign here. They can't just lie to him and get him to sign. I mean, they could, but I doubt that they will have. So does that imply maybe that there's something going on there? I don't know. There was an article in the Mail, I think. It was basically like, it just basically said, all the journalists are expecting Pep to go. Like, we haven't heard anything other than he hasn't signed a deal.
And I don't know if I'm projecting or hoping or using my final wish with the genie that he's going because he knows the charges are going to land.
I mean, that would be the ultimate sort of double hit of that, wouldn't it? Not only is Pep going, but he's going because they're fucked.
And he doesn't want to answer all the questions that are inevitably going to come.
Well, he said, if they've lied to me, I can't work here anymore. He said that himself. I believe them. If they've lied to me, I'm done.
Is that not a smoking gun?
Maybe it is. Right, Steve, thank you very much for joining me. Thank you as well for joining us at home. Make sure you check out the merch if you haven't already. Get your thoughts in the comments below. Man United, Bruno Fernandes, Elliot Anderson. Get your thoughts in. Man United 3, Forest 2. End of season, end of term feel to the game, but it's another assist for Bruno. The record has been equal.
Is he going to do it?
I think he will, but I wouldn't be surprised if he didn't.
I think he's going to get it and we lose. And I don't think anyone cares.
I'd absolutely take that. Right, cheers, Steve. Thank you for joining us at home. We'll see you in a bit.